Hi, I'm Raylyn Worcester, and this is Spreading the Word. That's Word with a capital W, as in the written word, the Bible, and the Word made flesh, Jesus Christ. I'm reading to you today from The Bigger Picture. If you haven't been listening to this, you'll want to go back to the very beginning, because the bigger picture shows us how our world got the way it is, where it's going, and what we can do about it. So now our focus has been narrowed down to one specific spot on the map, the United States of America. And we're talking about our nation's history and how things worked behind the scenes that the average person may not be aware of. And we're going to continue with an article called Instigated. Instigated. In his letter to Giuseppe Mazzini in 1871, 33rd level Freemason Albert Pike graphically outlined plans for 3 world wars that were seen as necessary to bring about the New World Order that would enable the Illuminati to control the entire world. You can listen to an excerpt from this letter in our article entitled Predicted or Planned. Looking back, we can see that World Wars I and II played out exactly as it was laid out in Pike's letter, decades before the wars took place. These wars didn't just happen, they were instigated. It's one thing to plot a war, but how do you make one happen? One of 2 ways. You provoke a party to the point they feel the need to retaliate, or you perpetrate an attack against yourself and blame it on your enemy as an excuse to go to war. This is known as a false flag. I believe every war that has ever been waged has been instigated for a purpose and should be researched in detail. For our purposes today, though, let's just look at World Wars I and II. President Woodrow Wilson had been elected to a second term, largely for his determination to keep the U.S. out of the war that was already in effect. But when the USS Lusitania sank, his cry changed to a war to end all wars that would make the world safe for democracy. His quotes. And Congress voted to declare war on Germany on April 6, 1917. Was the sinking of the Lusitania the unprovoked attack by Germany it was reported to be, forcing the U.S. to join World War I? There is evidence to suggest that there was plenty of warning that it was not safe for a merchant ship to be in those waters, and had it simply not been sent out, there would not have been an incident. In November of 1914, the British announced that the entire North Sea was now a war zone and issued orders restricting the passage of neutral shipping into and through the North Sea to a special channel where supervision could be possible, the other approaches having been mined. In response to this, Admiral Hugo von Pohl, commander of the German High Seas Fleet, published a warning in the Deutscher Reichsanzeiger, Imperial German Gazette, on February 4, 1915, saying, "The waters around Great Britain and Ireland, including the whole of the English Channel, are hereby declared to be a war zone. From February 18 onwards, every enemy merchant vessel encountered in the zone will be destroyed, nor will it always be possible to avert the danger thereby threatened to crew and passengers." The enemy took out an ad in the paper declaring their intentions. Yet the USS Lusitania sailed right into danger, causing the U.S. president to change his mind about declaring war. How unprovoked was that? World War II was instigated through the use of a false flag. On February 27, 1933, the German Parliament, Reichstag, building burned down due to arson. The government falsely portrayed the fire as part of a communist effort to overthrow the states. Though the origins of the fire are still unclear, in a propaganda maneuver, the coalition government, Nazis, and the German Nationalist People's Party blamed the communists. They exploited the Reichstag fire to secure President von Hindenburg's approval for emergency decree, the Decree for the Protection of the People and the State of February 28. Popularly known as the Reichstag Fire Decree, the regulation suspended the right to assembly, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and other constitutional protections, including all restraints on police investigations. Justified on the false premise that the communists were planning an uprising to overthrow the state, the Reichstag Fire Decree permitted the regime to arrest and incarcerate political opponents without specific charge, dissolve political organizations, and to suppress publications. It also gave the central government the authority to overrule state and local laws and overthrow state and local governments. All of this is a quote from www.ushmm.org/Holocaust Encyclopedia. Just in case you're wondering where I got all this information from. All of this paved the way for Hitler's unhindered rise to power. But Germany was not the only nation responsible for Hitler's rise to power. Prescott Bush was the founder of the Bush political dynasty and was once considered a potential presidential candidate himself. Like his son, George, and grandson, George W., he went to Yale, where he was, like his descendants, a member of the secretive and influential Skull and Bones Student Society, part of the Illuminati. He was an artillery captain in World War I and married Dorothy Walker, the daughter of George Herbert Walker, in 1921. In 1924, his father-in-law, a well-known St. Louis investment banker, helped him set up business in New York with Averell Harriman, the wealthy son of railroad magnate E.H. Harriman in New York, who had gone into banking. One of the first jobs Walker gave Bush was to manage UBC. The bank was set up by Harriman and Bush's father-in-law to provide a U.S. bank for the Tysons, Germany's most powerful industrial family. By the time Fritz Tyson inherited the business empire in 1926, Germany's economic recovery was faltering. After hearing Adolf Hitler speak, Tyson became memorized by the young firebrand. He joined the Nazi Party in December of 1931 and admits backing Hitler in his autobiography called I Paid Hitler, when the National Socialists were still just a radical fringe party. By the late 1930s, Brown Brothers Harriman, which claimed to be the world's largest private investment bank, and UBC had bought and shipped millions of dollars of gold, fuel, steel, coal, and U.S. Treasury bonds to Germany, both feeding and financing Hitler's build-up to war. Where did I get all this information from? www.theguardian.com. Planning and pulling off a world war is an incredible feat that takes monumental effort. It's only a world war if all the players are involved. If any one of them decides not to play, it won't work. They have to be convinced to declare or enter the war. These are just a couple of examples of measures used to ensure the wars deemed necessary in Pike's letter actually happened. Pike's letter called for 3 world wars to bring about Illuminati control of the world. With World Wars I and II behind us, it's 2 down and 1 to go. The stage has been set for World War III, which, according to Pike's letter, must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the State of Israel, mutually destroy each other. Oh, by the way, I'm just inserting into this what's happening today in 2026. Today, April 15, 2026. I think that Iran is at war with Israel and the United States are involved. Does that sound vaguely familiar to what I'm reading you? Something to think about. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion. How does one bring this about? They would need to create a transnational terrorist organization, an entity with sophisticated command, control, propaganda, and logistical capabilities, and one that has proven its ability to take and hold strategically critical territory at the heart of the Middle East. 3 years ago, at the time of this writing, the Islamic State, ISIS, did not exist. At the time of this writing, it controlled vast swaths of Syria and Iraq. That was taken from abcnews.go.com/jihadijohn. How do we know this is being instigated as part of the Illuminati plan outlined in Pike's letter? Because the ISIS leader, who had been beheading Western hostages, including American journalists James Foley and Stephen Sotloff, the previous August on YouTube, which allows billions of people to discover, watch, and share originally created videos, was not Muslim at all. Jihadi John has been identified as Londoner Mohammed Emwazi. By September, the FBI had said it learned Jihadi John's identity, but it was not revealed to the public. I believe World War III is imminent. It has been plotted, planned, and is currently being instigated. The timing lines up with the patterns already established in history. You can re-listen to our article entitled "Fourscore: History Repeats Itself," and think about the timeline we set. But evil only triumphs when good men do nothing. We may not be able to stop the war from happening, but we can prevent its desired outcome. Consider this excerpt from Pike's letter. The multitude, disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer brought finally out into the public view. This is the ultimate goal of the Illuminati. This is the part we can stop. We can go back to the beginning, see where we went astray, and right our path. We can put our faith in the one who created us and gave us the blueprint to live by. We can trust him to keep us in the midst of the coming turmoil. Do not be afraid or discouraged because of this vast invasion force, because the battle doesn't belong to you, but to God. 2 Chronicles 20:15. Well, after listening to that, do you have a little different viewpoint of World War I and World War II? And how close are we right now to World War III? And doesn't it make sense that all of these have been planned to bring about the 3 world wars needed to establish Illuminati rule and establish one new world order with Satan, Lucifer, at its head? Really something to think about that most people are totally oblivious to. If this alarms you, and it should, please share it with other people who need to know what is going on in our world. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and in this way you too can help spread the word. Thank you. God bless.